What's up, wonderful people? What's up, family? It's your boy Ryan Burden. Nice to be here with you. I'm connecting with you today from Southern California, outside San Diego. I've been at the School Climate Conference presenting this week. It's been amazing. Shout out to the folks here that put on a really bomb conference. Make sure we're over here live on Instagram, joining us on YouTube. We appreciate it no matter where you're joining us. Y'all, this 3-hour time difference has got your boy all kinds of messed up. I'm like, oh, it's still light out. I got to do the antidote. But here we are. So welcome. We got a great show for you tonight. We're gonna dive into some topics I've been dying to talk about. So yeah, man, thank you all for being here. If you're joining at the conference, holla at me if you see me. Had a really great session earlier today. Been to a lot of dope sessions here. There's so many people doing so much good work out here. It feels really, really good to see that for real. If you're joining, go ahead and jump in the chat. Tell us something good, where you're joining from, all of those things. We are here, y'all. We are here. We're gonna give some time. We're gonna talk about Jeff Metcalf. That's Austin Metcalf's father, rejecting the message from the Protect White Americans rally. That's a big deal, man. People ain't talking about that enough, I don't think. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not without critique, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Pete Hegseth's tattoos, and since we're deporting cats for their tattoos, the double standards of that. And then we're going to talk about the Shannon Sharpe shenanigans, y'all. We gotta talk about that, and we're going to do so with care. We're going to do so with intention, and we're going to try to be responsible about how we talk about these things. So, yeah, let's make sure that we are here and we're doing this well. We're always searching for connection. We're always searching for ways that we can move forward in a manner that brings us closer, that moves the world closer to justice, all of those things. So let's jump in. Also, y'all, it's the NFL draft. It's the NFL draft. So we might have a smaller live viewing audience today. That's fine. I get it. I keep looking. I'm like, it's sunny outside. Normally I do this at night, but it's all good. If you're catching us live, thank you for being here. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. If you're catching this after, thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me chop it up with you, and make sure you like this and send it to people, right? You can catch it on YouTube after, right? All right. So let's jump in. So y'all might have heard about this case, super important case. It got some media attention, and then it's kind of fallen off. But at the beginning of this month, April, there was a tragic death. A young man, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, out of Frisco, Texas, outside of Dallas, I believe. He and a white classmate of his, Austin Metcalf, got into an altercation. And Carmelo Anthony told him, don't put hands on me. Actually, I think what he said was, touch me and see what happens. And the confrontation continued. But it ended up tragically with Austin Metcalf losing his life, right? And since there's been all kinds of uproar about it, Austin Metcalf is a white young man. Carmelo Anthony is a black young man. There's racial dynamics here. There's all kinds of things going on. Carmelo Anthony's bail was set at $1 million. Then it was lowered. And so he was able to get out. And there was an uproar from a certain segment we'll talk about that was uproar and outraged about that. Carmelo Anthony's defense, there was a GoFundMe that raised some money. But there was all kinds of misinformation being spread. The family was experiencing threats just all kinds of wild things, right? And nowhere in there was the like, let's see what happened. We got to wait and see. The type of patience and deliberation that we are accustomed to seeing when a tragic death happens and the racial dynamics are reversed, right? When a white person takes the life of a black person, it's always wait and see what happens. We don't know what happened. Wait and see. Let the system play out. Whoop de whoop, all that, right? And again, just like when that happens, when the racial dynamics are reversed, we end up losing the tragedy of a lost life, right? And I do think anytime that somebody loses their life, it's a tragedy. I want to be clear about that. So anyway, here we are. Here we are. It's been super contentious. Like I said, it got some media attention and it's fallen off. I think because it's just not something that folks are talking about. You got to be nuanced about it. And the more that comes out, the more it's like, yeah, man, self-defense goes both ways, right? And if you just feel that you're threatened, it goes both ways. And so there's the powers that be, particularly white folks in America, aren't really trying to entertain that idea. They're really not trying to entertain that idea, and that's a really deep thing. But a certain segment, these white folks are out here doing all kinds of wildness. And one of those wild displays was Bruce Carter. Bruce Carter was at this protest. Bruce Carter is a Dallas entrepreneur and political activist, and he was there. He was a black man, but he was talking to Jake Lang, and Jake Lang is a January 6th protester who organized a Protect White Americans rally, particularly after the lowering of bond. And Bruce Carter calls Jeff Metcalf and puts him on the phone with Jake Lang. And I want y'all to see what is happening here, right? What is happening? So let me bring this up. I want y'all to see the interaction that they have. Here we go.
Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
Jeff, first of all, my entire heart rests in your hands. I would be in my position, not even as somebody even knew your son, but somebody that shares the same understanding. I grew up as a 17-year-old young white man too, and I grew up in fear of my life around black people because they were killing and robbing people around me all the time. And I don't understand, as I was a father, you could sit idly by and not condemn the culture that killed your son. There is an epidemic problem in this country, and your voice could be one of the loudest voices in this country, but you've chosen to recoil out of fear and continue the suppression. Why will you not stand with me and with the rest of the people? We're not calling for racial divide. We're not calling for hatred. We're saying 350,000 attacks on white people by black people a year in this country is wrong. Why can't you stand that and say with that? Maybe you can. Would you be willing to stand by me in a press conference or in an individual interview and talk about this issue that is larger than Austin at this point? God rest the beautiful young man's soul that would have been one of our strongest voices if he was still alive today.
Are you done?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, my turn to speak. You are part of the fucking problem, my friend. You're trying to create more race divide than bridging the gap. I do not condone anything you do. You do not have any fucking...
That's called white guilt.
No, let it talk.
My son, let me finish. I gave you your time. You take my son's face off your website. I am not associated with you.
You're creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness, sir. You are creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness.
You are being weak. I gotta be honest with you about that, sir.
You're being weak. Condemn your son's killer and the culture that caused it.
Hey, Jeff.
All right, yo. So we're gonna stop there. Listen. Woo! Where do we begin with this hot mess? Good God. Good God. All right, first. I'm a father. And I cannot imagine the wild things that I would be doing if something happened to one of my children. The pain, the grief, and just the ways that I would be acting, right? It's hard to imagine being at your best when you're facing such enormous grief and hurt and despair. And so certainly I want to send my condolences to Jeff Metcalf. I know Austin Metcalf had a brother, all that. I want to send my condolences to Carmelo Anthony and his family. That's wild to go through. From all accounts, that young man was distraught and genuinely felt like his life was in danger, and he did what he felt like he had to do, right? It is tragic all the way around. And just like the way we politicize these moments is important. And notice, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, because I believe politics are involved in all of this, and we can see that here, right? But let's not lose track of the humanity of that. A father is mourning the death of his child, and another father and another mother is mourning the death of her child. I don't want to reduce that, and that they're going through that, right? But this dude, Jeff Lang, what a slime ball, what a goofy ass dude, right? So one, you can just tell that this ain't about Austin Metcalf. To him, this ain't about nothing but perpetuating vile, just outdated racist trope stereotypes about blackness to conjure up white paranoia, to fill some sort of hole he has in his soul. It is wild to talk to a father like that, to call a father weak after losing, less than a month from losing his son, from being thrown into the public spotlight nationally in such a way, and then to have the audacity to call that man weak blows me. But especially, you're talking to another white man. You're supposed to be in community with this dude. You're supposed to have his back. White men, we ain't even getting that shit right. That is wild. We are not even getting it right, where we're not even holding each other down. And I want to point this out. That's how you know there's nothing beneficial about whiteness. There's nothing about community. There's nothing about connection. There's nothing about care. There's nothing about compassion. There's nothing about solidarity that whiteness can facilitate. It is only about fear. It is only about disconnection. It is only about riling up people to inflict harm against people of color. That is all whiteness is about. That is why we cannot find community around whiteness. And this clip demonstrates that. This dude and so like there's that piece, right? And I think that that's a super important piece to talk about. But now let's step back and actually present an analysis, right? He's just wrong. Black people are not more violent than white folks. As a matter of fact, they're less violent. The most violent group of people in this country are white men. The people who are most likely to die from gun violence are white men via suicide. So we are so just eroded inside that we're hurting, we're killing ourselves. We're literally saying, remove me from the face of this planet because it just ain't worth it. And then we got goofies like this Jeff Lang dude, who is out here on Sinners just came out. I saw Sinners. Jeff Lang is the definition of the vampires off of Sinners. 100% full stop. That dude is a vampire. And that is what whiteness does. Whiteness is vampiric. I don't know if that's a word. We just made it up, but that's what it's going to be. It is vampiric. It steals your energy. It steals your joy. It steals your connection. And that is why it is so dangerous. So dangerous. And so I want to invite us, to do what Austin Metcalf's father did, what Jeff Metcalf did, and call that out. Tell him, you're a part of the problem. He uses some choice language, some language I appreciate. I ain't going to use it on here because I don't, I want to post this on social media and stuff. I don't want to be flagged. But kudos to Jeff Metcalf for refusing that call. That would have been a really easy sort of like, oh, this community might be able to understand me, to get me to turn your anger, your hurt into that anger that would move people towards whiteness. Kudos to Jeff Metcalf for in that moment not doing that. Now, I also want to be clear. There's some I don't know Jeff Metcalf. I don't know a whole lot about him. I don't know his politics. I haven't been able. If somebody out there knows a little bit, feel free to send me an email. I would love to learn more. But I do know that Jeff Metcalf was also in the news a couple weeks ago because he showed up to Carmelo Anthony's family's news conference after having a restraining order put against him, right? And that's not a good look. That's not a good look. And again, this man just lost one of his sons. And so I don't know what I would do. I don't know, but I know that it's that we are complex beings. Humans are complex, right? And so the idea that you can do things that are in violation, but also stand and reject further violation, is something that I think here on The Antidote we can embrace. We can understand that we can hold both truths at the same time. So yeah, that's wild. And I think, but I do think we need to understand that this is an opportunity. There was an opportunity for Jeff Metcalf to collude with whiteness, and he refused. He said, nah, I reject that language. I reject that message. He told them to take his son's name and image off the website, that they weren't going to be able to use that in that way. And I can rock with that. I can rock with that. I also think it demonstrates a need to have this conversation. We're ill-equipped to have the conversation about how race is informing this, right? How is it informing what we're doing, how we're understanding what happened? It speaks to our need for racial literacy, and that our racial literacy would allow us to connect. Increased racial literacy would allow us increased connection. Because again, this is what whiteness is. Jeff Lang is whiteness. That dude is a slime ball. If anybody's got some connections to him, I would love to chop it up with him. I would love to have a conversation. Clearly he's hurt. Clearly he needs a hug. It is my job as a fellow white man to go get them, because he's causing harm, right? That's harmful. That's wildly inappropriate. That's about the most disgusting thing that I've seen in a long, long time. Shame on you, Jeff Lang. You're a goofy. And I'll tell you that to your face, my guy. I'll tell you that to your face. So with that being said, let's move on to another full goofy. This time it's Pete Hegseth. Y'all know Pete Hegseth. He's made news. He's all kinds of goofy as well. But we're gonna specifically talk about his double standard around tattoos. Well, not his double standard, because he ain't necessarily doing it, but the Trump administration's double standard around tattoos. But first, we cannot talk about Pete Hegseth without talking about Signal. This is the goofball that's texting war plans and Signal group chats. And there was the one where he invited Jeff Goldberg, the editor at The Atlantic. And that was a whole thing, which should have meant that he got excused. There should have been some sort of accountability for that. There was not. But now we find out that my man is over here doing the same shit, except for with his lawyer and wife. This is the incompetence of whiteness, y'all. And maybe it's not even incompetence. It's just the audacity, right? It's just the audacity. And it's the way that whiteness keeps us from being our best selves, or at least from the world from seeing our worst selves. This dude is Ivy League. You're supposed to be the best of the best, and I can't stand that he's from Minnesota. And my Minnesota people, that goofball's from Forest Lake. So it's not at all surprising where he's at in his politics, right? But he's a goofball, and he's Princeton. He went to Princeton in Ivy League, supposed to be creme de la creme, top shelf, you dig? All of those things. And this is the type of work product. This is the type of deliverables. These are the outcomes that you get when you reward not only mediocrity, but trash. This dude is a goofball. He shouldn't, I guarantee you, he shouldn't have passed the class. This dude is an outright goofball, incapable. He's never been held to a standard of basic ability to exist as a human, let alone have this level of responsibility. But he'll be the first one to scream about some DEI shit and some how people lowering the bar and all that. His whole life, the bar's been removed, right? He been, you know, when you talk about lowering the bar, he ain't even know where the bar is because it's just been gone. That's how low it is. He just walks and it's done. He ain't never had a bar in his life, right? So there's that about Pete Hegseth. But at the same time, this is what the Trump administration loves, this type of dude. They love these type of white people. They love them some Jeff Langs. They love them some Pete Hegseth. They love them some Stephen Millers, some Russell Voigts, all these subpar, mediocre shells of men, shells of decent humans who ain't got any sort of, you know, it's like the Grinch, their heart's all too small and all that. That's what they are, right? They're vampires. This is what whiteness is. We're going to stick on that sinners theme. They're vampires. But the Trump administration loves them. And they're because whiteness got us so like this in blinders, y'all, so in blinders that they don't even see their double standards. Now, and that's being generous. In a generous analysis, they don't see the double standards. In reality, they might see them and they just don't care. Here's my thing. I don't care which one of those it is. Not at all, not even a little bit, because either way, the outcome is the same. You're perpetuating division, disease, low expectations. Just the worst of humanity is perpetuated through whiteness, particularly when whiteness colludes with some toxic masculinity, which is the Trump administration dumpster fire that it is. And so we all know that Trump is invoking the Colonial Alien Enemies Act to deport a bunch of people that he mainly from Venezuela, you know, sending them to CCOT in El Salvador. The most talked about case is probably the Kilmar case. Why am I spacing? Hold on. Wow, I'm spacing on his last name. Abrego Garcia. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Whew. I had a moment there. It's been a long day, y'all. And so they're talking about his tattoos, right? They even released the little thing where they showed his knuckle tattoos, and they were like MS-13 on some nonsense, some goofy bullshit, right? The whole time they got this dude. This is Pete Hegseth and his tattoos. These are known white nationalist symbols, y'all. These are known white nationalist symbols, and he is there showing them off, right? He is showing them off. It's wild to me that this is where we are at, and then it's not, because this is where we have always been, right? This level of hypocrisy, this level of an inability, this level of an inability to reflect on how we show up is just what America is made for, right? We loud and elevate goofballs like Thomas Jefferson, talk about how enlightened they are, how forward thinking they are. We, you know, the founding fathers and all that. And it's a little footnote that he had slaves and that he was raping Sally Hemings and had kids by her, multiple kids by her, right? That contradiction is fundamental to America. It is who America is. And Pete Hegseth demonstrates that in our modern times. Look at this. These are all white nationalist symbols, right? These are all white nationalist symbols. And there's a bunch of there's a bunch of think pieces out there that go into it. Those are the 5 crosses, things like that. But and there might be some sort of rationales, but this one on his bicep, I want to zone in on right here. Okay. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but Deus Vult across his bicep, it means God wills it. It's the command to go do something, and it is tied back to the Crusades. And it's the belief in the Christian God that it was their duty to go take over. It was conquerors. It was colonialists. It is fundamentally the mindset that whiteness is based in, that it is white men's duty to go conquer, to be conquerors, right? And it is not insignificant that this man has that, nor that he is the Secretary of Defense, that he is in charge of the military, that he has a military background. This is what they've always wanted to do. They have always wanted to take over. They believe that the goal of whiteness is to take over. It is to go conquer. This is Richard Spencer, right? This is a white nationalist belief. They're unabashed in it. And the only difference between Pete Hegseth and a David Duke is that Pete Hegseth has realized you got to finesse the systems a little bit. You got to finesse, you got to get in there, because at one point in time, it was not politically acceptable to be an open white nationalist. That is shifting. I want to be very clear. That is shifting. It is openly acceptable to say you want white men out here running the world, that you need white people to run the world. These people are not only is it acceptable, they're getting elevated within the Trump administration. And Pete Hegseth demonstrates that completely. These demonstrate that completely, right? And so it's super important. It's super important that we understand that. What do we do? How do we connect around this? Y'all, Pete Hegseth is hurting, just like all white men are hurting who haven't figured this out. But what we do is we protect people from that, right? One of the things in restoration is you got to stop harm from happening. And it's not harmful to tell the people who are causing harm to knock it off and to do what you got to do to stand in the breach of that and say no. And I'm talking especially to other white men right now, people who look like me and got a little bit of heart in them and that don't think this is acceptable. It is on us to be the loudest voices right now because we're the safest. And I notice I'm not saying we're safe. We are the safest. I got a case. I got all that because I stood up to a white nationalist that was threatening some kids, right? Y'all, if you know me, you know about that. If you don't, holler, and we could talk about it. But we got to put something on the line, and we are the safest. It is up to us to stand in front of Pete Hegseth and be like, nah, bro, it's not going down. Not while I'm around. Not while I'm connected to these communities. Not while I care about the type of world that I live in, the type of country that I'm in. I'm not a patriotic dude, mainly because our patriotism is wishy-washy. It's like this, right? What are we patriotic about? We make America great again, or we going to make America great for the first time because we understand history? These are the questions that we have to have, and we got to have strong answers right now. And white men, we need to pick a side, and we need to be open about it. And if you aren't openly about it, if you aren't openly telling Pete Hegseth, I ain't got no time, energy, or nothing for you, and you shouldn't be front and center in these things, then you've picked a side. Then you've picked a side, my guy. You've picked a side. You can't, there's no like just get yours and move on and all that. And I know the world tells you that you're weak, and that we haven't gone to therapy, we haven't healed, so we don't have a real sense of self in order to stand in this. But we better figure it out real quick, because it is not for play. Okay? It is not for play. Which brings me to our third and final story. Y'all, this one has been in the news quite a bit. And it is my guy, Shannon Sharpe. Now, I like Shannon Sharpe. I do. And we got to talk about him. But before we talk about him, I want to be really clear about this, right? So let's back up. Shannon Sharpe has been accused of rape in a civil suit. He's being sued for $50 million. And it's 3 incidences, I believe, that he's being accused of rape. He says it was a consensual sexual relationship. He's 58. The young lady was 19 when the relationship started. Okay. He stepped away from ESPN to handle this. He hopes to be back for the preseason. He denies any accusations of sexual misconduct, sexual assault, rape, all of that. And so I want to talk about this, but we're going to do so carefully because there's kind of two ways I want to talk about this. First, I want to acknowledge that Black men have often been falsely accused of sexual misconduct, of particularly rape, particularly by white women and women who pass as white. And I can't tell what the young lady's ethnicity is. I'm not sure. She's not going to be mistaken as a Black woman, that's for sure. But that's neither here nor there. That's a historical fact, and it's something that we need to consider, and we need to acknowledge. That being said, by and large, women don't lie about being sexually assaulted. So my tendency is to believe women, right? There's also another layer. This accuser's lawyer is Tony Busby. Now, if you don't know who Tony Busby is, he is pretty much a slimeball. My opinion, he's a slimeball. He's the one most recently has been in the news because he represented Jay-Z's accuser. And Jay said, nah, right? Like, let's get to it. And that accuser has retracted, said, yeah, nah, that wasn't it, because Jay presented all kinds of evidence that this wasn't true, right? And so I got side-eye for anybody who's rocking with Tony Busby, to be perfectly honest, right? And all of those things can exist at the same time. And none of that is what I actually want to talk about tonight. What I would like to talk about tonight is the fact that this 58-year-old grown-ass man was having a sexual relationship with a 19-year-old teenager. And she's a teenager, 19, right? He has daughters older than this girl, right? And I want to talk about what that is. I just been railing on white men, right? Talking about the harm and the hurt that exists within white men. And there's a real particular and unique harm that comes with whiteness for us, for white men, that we need to deal with and heal from in order to move fully human and not cause harm in the space. But there's also a harm that comes with sexism and patriarchy and toxic masculinity that, while looks different in communities of color, is no less harmful. And the need for therapy for men is overwhelming. And regardless of these allegations, what happens with these allegations, one thing that's not being contested is that he had a sexual relationship with this child. And she is a child. She's 19. You can't even buy her a drink legally. Brain hasn't been developed. Prefrontal cortex is not developed. None of those things. And it's weird that is attractive. And then you add in, my man has smoked for lots of people with big age gaps. And let me be clear. I'm not necessarily against big age gaps. I'm against teenagers dating fully grown people, right? And this would be exactly the same if we flipped it. I'm against that. I won't care if it's a 19-year-old boy and a 58-year-old woman. That's weird to me. There's something there that we need to look at, that we need to heal from, because it's just not okay. And I want to encourage men to take a look at that, man, to really take a look at that. What's going on there? We gotta take some real serious stock. We gotta have conversations with our boys about things. When we hear things, it starts with the jokes in the locker room. It's all over, right? It's just like, this ain't really this ain't where it's at. This is not where it's at. at all. And so yeah, I hope that we figure out what's going on and that we make some moves towards healing. The best thing we could do is make some moves towards healing. So yeah, that's where we're at, people. That's where we're at. I see some folks in the chat. Let me check. Do we have any questions? What's up, Anthony? How you doing, man? I hope you're well. Make sure you go ahead and like this. Anthony, go ahead and like this, share this. Again, thank y'all for rocking with me. I know it's draft night. Where's Shador gonna go? That's what everybody's talking about. I think everything worked out. I'm in the hotel room. Y'all, they upgraded me to a suite. That was everything. It's been great. We're out here at the School Climate Conference. If you're in Southern California, particularly around the San Diego area, holla at your boy. We got some questions coming in. How do you feel about the ongoing constitutional crisis? We're gonna throw this one up. How do you feel about the ongoing constitutional crisis? It worries me, yo. It worries me for sure. I think it's not the first time that we've been in this situation, right? Andrew Jackson said, "Oh, the court has made its decision. Let's see them enforce it." So it's not the first time that white men have done whatever the hell white men want to do, especially around their imperial ambitions. And so I know it's not new. It's certainly new in my lifetime, right? We haven't experienced anything like this. Actually, no, I want to back up. That's not true. George Bush didn't go through the proper channels to bomb the hell out of Iraq for 20 years. The only difference was we had been, September 11th gave us the cover to do that, but we've laid the groundwork for Trump in lots of ways. The Patriot Act, the Iraq War, the invasion of Afghanistan, all of these things, the Obama drone bombing, and extrajudicially killing citizens. It's not new. It's not new, and it's scary. I hope it makes people realize is that we talk about the rule of law and the Constitution, and so many people are, have expressed such profound faith in these things that we forget that they're not in and of themselves magical. Those things are flawed documents. They're created by white men for white men, and white men feel like they can do whatever they want. When it comes to those, right? They're supposed to police the behaviors and the worldview of poor folks, of people of color, of conquered populations. They're not supposed to police the actions of white males, of European males. And that's the problem, right? Because whiteness doesn't allow us to be in connection and community. So we don't feel accountable to those documents, to those values, certainly to each other, which is why shows like this, what we try to talk about, right, is like, how do we get in connection? And how do we stop the harm from people who might not be interested in that connection? I want to be clear. I don't believe that Pete Hegseth is interested in connection. I really, truly don't. So what do we do about that? We stop the harm that he can do, right? I don't believe that Pete Hegseth represents the majority of people, though. I don't even think Pete Hegseth represents the majority of white men, I'll be honest. And I know that some folks give me side-eye for that. But I don't think he does. I think white men feel differently, and they want to have some sort of outlet to fill in that thing, right? Don't forget about Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, like we've been in violation of rights for a minute. Anthony got all the questions that how dire is our climate situation? Super dire. Super dire is probably the most scary thing that's happening right now, right? I know it doesn't feel as imminent to folks because, fascism. But it's tied to that, right? Don't forget that whiteness, white supremacy, all these things are in service of a capitalist economic system that tells us we need to grow, we need to consume, create, and objectify creation. And so our denial of climate change is meant to allow industry to make lots and lots of money, right? And so when we're talking about the climate situation, we can't disconnect it from capitalism, from whiteness, from all that. And not just because it's the global south and countries that are predominantly brown that get the worst of that, but because it's connected to the worldview that allowed for that to happen, right? It's a legacy of colonialism, the wealth that in the figment of our imagination insulates us, I mean Americans, us, I mean the West, from climate, from thinking that the climate change is going to impact us. And even for some folks, denying that climate change is real, as we're in continuously record-breaking summers, continuously seeing these storms that are supposed to be once in a lifetime storms that are happening year after year after year. It's whiteness that keeps us from that. I firmly believe that. And so our climate situation is dire. It's dire, not just because there's a lot of carbon in there, but because we haven't interrogated the worldview that facilitates that. And that is, that's scary, man. That's super scary. That is super, super scary. Let me pop over here, see if are there any comments on the gram. No, there's not. All right. All right, y'all. I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes. Send in some questions if you're watching. Otherwise, I'm about to wrap it up. I'm about to get to this draft. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Anthony said, I can't imagine being a parent right now. Y'all, go back and I know you joined late. Go back and watch the first story. We talked about a dad, Jeff Metcalf, Austin Metcalf's father. Yeah. Who's a sleeper in the draft? Oh man, I don't know who the sleeper in the draft is. Honestly, I think Jalen Milroe is going to be a better NFL player than people are talking about. I don't know that I would necessarily call him a sleeper, but they're talking about second round. I think you're gonna get first round 10. You're gonna get first round results with Jalen Milroe. I really do. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Please, 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 if you're watching this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Those are free. It don't take nothing. Just hit those, please. And then share this. We're trying to build this community. Well, we've added some followers, added some subscribers to the family. Can't tell you how much that means. Please, please, please continue to do that. I'll wait another couple seconds for some questions. Do you think Sanders will fall to the Steelers? Maybe. I don't know. I would like to see Shador with the Steelers. I think that would be dope. Any other questions? We're going once, going twice. And we are out of here, y'all. See you again next week. We're here every Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Pacific, which is where I'm at right now. If you're in Cali, holla at me. Thank you. Peace and love.